Well, speaking of cultural impact and legacy, and the Cabinet Secretary touched on it a little bit earlier on, next we're going to look ahead to a fantastic opportunity when Scotland will host the UCI Cycling World Championships in 2023. Nick Chamberlin is the Policy Manager at British Cycling and is encouraging us to change the way we move. And he poses the question, can Scotland go Dutch? Please welcome Nick.
Right, good afternoon everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today and letting me talk about bicycles undiluted for a little bit of your time. It's much appreciated. So yeah, let's change the way we move. Can Scotland go Dutch? So many people would believe that the Dutch haven't ever lost their love for the bicycle, whereas the Brits, well, the Brits and the Scots, we took to the car and we designed roads for 4 wheels and not 2. So, having only just got up, and I'm very pleased that some other people have shown some videos, I am also, like a teacher at the end of term, going to cheekily play you a quick video. In this video is my other boss, Chris Boardman. For those of you who don't know who Chris Boardman is, so Chris really was responsible, along with Graham O'Brien, in the early 90s for starting the British cycling renaissance, the gold rush that then led to people like Chris Hoy winning all of his collection of gold medals. Chris won a gold medal on the Velodrome track in 1992 in Barcelona. He then went on to have a phenomenal professional career, winning yellow jerseys in the Tour de France and performing in all sorts of other international races. When Chris retired, and he retired quite early at 32, he then did various things. He worked for us in British Cycling in the performance team. He started his own brand of bikes, Boardman Bikes, which some of you may or may not have seen in Halford stores. But also, he has become, over the last 5 or 6 years, probably the leading figure in terms of advocacy and campaigning for cycling and walking. And his efforts and his energy in that has led to him, over the last couple of years, becoming the Walking and Cycling Commissioner for Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester. He really is putting his money where his mouth is and seeing if he can prove this point. Now, the reason I'm going to play this particular video is this is a video Chris made with the ITV broadcasters back in 2015 when Chris was commentating on the Tour de France when it happened to start in Utrecht in the Netherlands. So Chris used that major sporting event, one of the biggest annual sporting events we all witness every year, to tell a different story and to talk about something beyond the race itself. So I'll leave you to watch.
We're all here, and you're watching this programme because bike racing is a spectacular sport. But the beauty of the simple bicycle, this wonderful, simple machine, is it's so much more than a collection of sprockets and wheels and gears for people to go fast on and entertain us. Now, it is, of course, all of those things, but it has the potential to change entire communities. And here in Utrecht, well, they've let it do just that.
There's a general assumption around the world that the Netherlands' bicycle-centric approach towards the use of public space has always been in place, organically grown since the invention of the wheel. In fact, it hasn't. In the late 50s, the Netherlands, like the rest of Europe, was embracing the motor car, even demolishing buildings and removing cycling infrastructure to make the streets bigger to accommodate more motor traffic. The results were predictable: a rapid decline in the use of bikes and an increase in road deaths. By 1971, well over 3,000 people were dying every year on Dutch roads, and more than 400 of that number were children. The toll was seen as intolerable and sparked mass demonstrations, with protesters demanding central government take action to make the streets safer. In '73, an economic pressure in the guise of a predicted oil crisis gave the Dutch government the final push it needed to rethink not only the transport policy, but how they lived in the Netherlands. Car-free Sundays, ostensibly to save fuel, were introduced in cities and reminded people of just what they'd lost. And instead of being bad for business, as many shop owners had feared, takings actually went up. Eventually, city centres started to become permanently car-free, with Utrecht being an early adopter, and in the mid-70s the first separated cycleways were built. Within a year, bike use in these areas increased by as much as 75%, results that gave the government the confidence to take the scheme nationwide. Unsurprisingly, road deaths plummeted, and the child death rate that had catalysed the whole rethink dropped steadily from over 400 in 1971 to just 14 by 2010. For 40 years, the Netherlands built on their success adopting and expanding their people-first philosophy, not only in their streetscapes, but also in their legislation. The presumed liability law, which presupposes that the larger vehicle is always responsible in the event of an accident, ensures every road user is obliged to look after the more vulnerable. In addition, all motorised traffic in the Netherlands has to give way when turning left or right to people on bicycles. It's a sad fact that cycling in Britain is still often seen as frivolous, a leisure activity that gets in the way of the serious adult business of driving. So calls by cycling protesters to adopt similar measures to protect and encourage cycling in the UK have been met with scorn, derision and in some cases outright hostility, with a vociferous few insisting that following suit would be unfair to drivers and in any case it'd bring our cities to a standstill. Well, in Utrecht, just 225 miles away from our capital, they take a very different view. Their strategy hasn't led to chaos. In fact, there's virtually no conflict between drivers and bikes. The people here seem to like the arrangement they've developed, and why wouldn't they? The city is noticeably quieter, the air is cleaner, and businesses are booming. Public spaces here are simply a more pleasant place to be. You wouldn't prefer the roads where they live to look like this. 33% of all journeys here are by bike, and even more wonderful, in an age where obesity threatens to kill more people than cancer, 50% of all the children travel to school by bike. And for those of us who've become accustomed to thinking of cycling as an inherently dangerous way to get about, there's an even more interesting stat. Less than 1% of cyclists in the Netherlands wear helmets, yet the country has the lowest incidence of head injuries in the world. The Dutch recognised early on that measures that really keep cyclists safe are space, low speeds, supportive laws and familiarity with riding at an early age. In my opinion, the people who make the big transport spending decisions on our behalf should be obliged to come and spend just a few days here before deciding what is and what isn't good value for public money.
Well, I've spent a couple of days now riding around the streets of Utrecht, and I've seen tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of bikes, but I haven't seen a single cyclist. I've just seen normal people in normal clothes doing normal things, dressed for their destination, not the journey. The bicycle, just a simple, fun and inexpensive way to get from A to B. It's a contraption that quite literally has the potential to change the world, if we let it.
I love the excuse to play that video. It's real energising to someone who works in cycle campaigning like I do. It's also a very hard act to follow. Chris is a fantastic speaker and presents things brilliantly. But let me just carry on a little bit and talk a little bit more about Britain and Scotland, and then of course build towards the big opportunity that we have. So cycling in Britain, you know, in the 1930s, Britain did start to copy the Dutch by building segregated infrastructure. This bike path here, inspired by the UK Transport Minister at the time, Hugo Belisha, he of Beacon fame, inspired this and spent money on it. So what happened? Well, this is what happened. It's quite a bleak picture. But you can see that even as late as the 1960s, the bicycle was still an intrinsic part of British culture. So it's estimated that Britain once had as many as 500 miles of curb-protected cycleways. These were largely constructed in the 1930s and 40s, copying the Dutch experience. In 1949, as recently as 1949, the same percentage of journeys in Britain were made by bike as by the Dutch in the Netherlands. But following the Second World War, the priority in Britain and Scotland shifted towards house building, and as car ownership became increasingly popular and affordable, cycle lanes were soon appropriated for cars. So driving in Britain. I think this picture captures it all, as did some of those images in the film that we've just watched. So I believe that now the trend has gone too far and the car dominates lives to far too great a degree. Scotland, like the rest of the UK, has a choice to make about the sort of country that you all want to live and work in. The reality of the transport choices we've made since the Second World War is this. It's congestion, it's pollution, it's inactivity, and increasingly it is a massive negative impact on people's mental health. These are the figures again. Compare that to the one I showed you before. But the glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel is that maybe we've reached peak car, things are plateauing. I don't think we can squeeze any more vehicles and any more vehicle journeys onto Britain's roads, onto Scotland's roads. So we've got to think differently and do something different. But this is the reality of driving in Britain at the moment. Air pollution contributes to around 40,000 premature deaths every year, and it's costing us an estimated £22.6 billion. We now have one of the highest obesity rates in Europe, with a third of men and 42% of women not getting enough exercise, and the impact on young people being particularly worrying. Drivers in our cities are spending more than a day each year in rush hour traffic. This is costing the British economy at least £9 billion. And currently, 23% of all trips in this country of under a mile are taken by car. That's 33% of all trips 1 to 2 miles, and a staggering nearly 80% of 2 to 5 mile journeys. Now, some of these journeys could be done by bike if we change the situation and give people more choice. Okay, so the solutions. So this is a wonderful image of what Argyle Street in Glasgow could look like very soon. This is part of the amazing, inspiring Glasgow Avenues project. Is this the Scotland that you will want to help create? I really hope that it is. Is it just simply a matter of build it and they will come? No, it is not. It is always much more complicated and complex than that. But if you don't build anything, then I can absolutely assure you, having worked in cycle campaigning for 20 years, they will not come. Many of you will have seen images like this coming out of Edinburgh over the last few days. Again, some really inspiring, visionary pictures of what the City Council in Edinburgh and the Scottish Government wants to do in your capital city. A very mixed social media reaction, as you can imagine. And again, the conversation is so important around this. Okay, so the big opportunity and the reason I'm here talking to you today, 2023. Here's a picture of the amazing Sir Chris Hoy Velodrome in Glasgow. I hope that most of you have had a chance to go there and hopefully be there during a big event as well. Scotland will be the centre of the cycling world in 2023. As Fiona said earlier, the first ever combined cycling world championships. All the disciplines in one place at one time. But can Scotland become a true cycling nation, with the humble bicycle used by everyone to get around and to live a healthier, happier life? The eyes of the world, as they are this week for golf, will be on Scotland at that time, and the bicycle is going to dominate conversations. So what country do all of you want to showcase to the rest of the world? And importantly with this, in this incredible sporting context as well, sport should not be a dirty word. And that may sound strange to many of you here who spend your life working on incredibly inspiring sporting events like the one we're here to enjoy this week. But actually in the transport world, that's a criticism I get a great deal. Just because taking part has become more difficult maybe now than it was in the past for some people, sport and physical activity are central themes of British and Scottish life, and we know that cycling for fitness and fun can lead to cycling for transport if people are given choice and if people are given safe space. Here are some words that our chairman gave at the time that the 2023 World Championships was awarded to Scotland, an unbelievably exciting period. I really feel that this is an opportunity like no other to use sport and a major event to really change a nation forever. We all know, and the talks this morning have all been about this, that major events can deliver a legacy. But Scotland, with 2023, has an opportunity to turbocharge that legacy and actually get to 2023 already ahead. Ahead for itself, ahead for its citizens, and certainly ahead of the rest of the UK. The opportunities, here's just a few just to touch on. But why would Scotland do more than it is already doing? And I genuinely, passionately believe that you are doing an awful lot already. Well, supporting cycling helps everyone in society, from the poorest communities to big business. Chris Boardman, who you heard earlier, always states to people when he gives a talk on this that actually it's very simple for a nation, it's very simple for decision makers. You just need a few things. You need a defined mission. And I think with a little bit of tweaking, Scotland has that, a very bold one and a very visionary one. You need full and public political support. This needs to be built, and it needs to be built quickly. People like Fiona are leading that charge, and it's incredibly inspiring to hear it. You need ring-fence funding to deliver, more of that in a second. And you need quality standards that meet anything that the Dutch can aspire to. Lastly, you need empowered leaders, or should I say, lots of leaders. You need an empowered community. Okay, hard reality in pounds. I always love putting some reality to this. What does this mean? What can I tell you? So Scotland is already leading the UK in funding cycling. Genuinely, outside of London, that is the truth. There is great ambition in this country. Now, these figures aren't absolutely exact, but they give you a good idea of where we're at currently. So Scotland is already spending at least £80 million a year on active travel, and by the time that's match funded by local authorities across the country, it's considerably more than that. But if you spent 5% of the Scottish transport budget, you're talking around £120 million a year. Big money. Scotland and the UK, however, remember, are 40+ years behind the Dutch already, and falling further behind every year. So actually 10% or 240 million a year is what would be needed to accelerate a move away from car dependency for some journeys. And that means tough choices to fund cycling and walking instead of other transport priorities. So the final bill for the recently opened Aberdeen bypass, for example, will exceed around £1 billion. I'm sure many of you have used it. I know that it was much needed, but it's an example of the tough, real choices you need to make if you're to transform Scotland over the next decade. The Dutch, at the same time, will be spending €3.3 billion on cycling alone between 2020 and 2027, and that is on top of 40+ years of investment. The Dutch already invest around £26 per person annually on cycling, and they've been spending at that sort of level, as we heard from Chris, since the early to mid-1970s. One other aspect here, and this is really important, linked to the 2023 event. Funding for the sport of cycling is critical. Like all major sporting events, the legacy must leave, I believe, domestic sport in a better place than it was before. World-class facilities and committed, supported clubs and volunteers running a domestic competition programme that is envied by the rest of the cycling world. Scotland is already doing so much of this. Okay, so let's get back to where we started. Let's change the way we move. Can Scotland go Dutch? I really hope so. Who wouldn't want the streets near them to look more like this? But this is not a transport question. This is a whole societal shift in thinking. People like you, senior leaders and influencers, must support this agenda for it to become reality. I cannot emphasize that enough. And I'm going to finish with some words from Fiona at the time, again, that the bid was announced. As I say, the excitement in my world, in a cycling world, for what Scotland is trying to do in 2023 is immense. Your ambition as a nation is huge, and I really believe that you can do this. And if you do, just like we've been hearing about Vancouver, like Liverpool, like Glasgow as a city of culture in 1990, this is pioneering work that no one has ever done before. The Dutch themselves haven't done this. So if Scotland can change the way it moves and can embrace the bicycle as part of the broader mix in 2023, it would be absolutely fantastic. And I really believe that everyone in this room has a huge part to play in hopefully making some of that happen. Thank you very much.